Hello and welcome to the Rising Generation Leadership Podcast with me, Errol, Lawson. If this is your first time joining us, we want to welcome you. It's great to have you with us today. The Rising Generation exists to inspire and equip Christian leaders from all walks of life, from all around the world, to fulfill their God-given potential. By hearing these interviews with established, internationally recognized leaders, we hope you'll be inspired to connect the dots between where you are now and where it is God has called you to be. Now, to receive notifications about future episodes, simply subscribe to our podcast show by either on iTunes if you're on Apple, or on Stitcher, the Stitcher app if you're on Android. You can find out how to do that just by going to our webpage at www.errollawson.com/podcast. If you enjoyed the show, please share it with your friends, share it with your loved ones. Hopefully they will also benefit from the content. Guys, thanks for listening. Before we go into today's show, here's some news for you. Hey guys, how you doing? It's Errol here. Hope you're doing great today. Before we go into our interview today, I want to give you just a bit of a heads up on our Rising Generation campaign that started on the 1st of October. Now, if you're not aware already, we've been doing these interviews now. We've taken some of the nuggets from the interviews and put them into a fantastic book, a resource called The Rising Generation, which is an amazing resource for emerging leaders, established leaders that will help you to step into your biggest challenges and become the leader that God has designed you to be. Now, the way the campaign works is this. Our goal is to get 1,000 pre-orders of the book between now and the end of October, and all the profits from the campaign are going to go towards our work in Africa, in Ghana. We're working with young people and giving them leadership training and soft skills training and even more. And so for the last 15 years, I've been working as a leadership coach, a consultant, working in education and in business. You can check out my website for more information. I'm a John Maxwell trained coach, speaker, and trainer. My appeal to you today is this. I want to offer my services to you, to your church, to your business, to your organization, to you as an individual in return for your support for this campaign. Let me give you an example of some of the packages that I'm offering to you. If you were to pre-order 150 copies of the Rising Generation book for your team, for your organization, for your church, or for your business, in return, I would offer you firstly a 90-minute live keynote address on a leadership topic of your choice, along with a Q&A for your organization or team. I'd also offer you a one-day leadership workshop for your team or organization, again on a leadership topic of your choice. And also, in addition to that, give you a free half-day one-to-one or group coaching session, again for yourself as a leader or for your core team or for your wider team on a leadership topic of your choice, all in return for your contribution, which is a $5,000 contribution. You're going to get $8,900 worth of value for your investment, and all the profit goes to the work in Ghana. How awesome is that? And there's similar packages. There's so many offers I've got. Another option is the $1,500 package, which for your $1,500 contribution, you'll get 20 copies of the book for your team or organization. And also a one-day leadership workshop with myself, again for your team, your organization. I'll come in and train your team on a leadership topic of your choice. How amazing is that? So much value. And there are many more offers in line with your budget, what you're able to invest. I want to reach out to you guys. Go and check out the website to make this campaign a success. We really need your support. I'm banking on you. So please share this with your friends and help us to spread the word. We appreciate you. God bless you. Enjoy today's episode. Hello and welcome back to the Rising Generation Leadership Podcast with me, Errol Lawson, and my special guest today is Ken Davis. Ken is a best-selling author, a frequent radio and television guest, one of the country's, the US's, most sought-after inspirational and motivational speakers. His mixture of side-splitting humor and inspiration delights and enriches audience of all ages. He has received the Dove Award for his unique brand of comedy and message, and his books have received national critical acclaim, including the Book of the Year Award and the Golden Medallion Award. The video and audio tapes of his live appearances are in constant demand, and his book, Fully Alive, was made into a feature-length film that, after a theatrical release, is now available on Netflix and DVD. I could say so much more about Ken, but Ken, let me say welcome.
Thank you. It's just a delight to be with you, Aaron. I'm looking forward to our chat together.
Thank you, Ken. And Ken, just fill in any gaps in your bio, first of all, if you will, please. And then give us a
Uh,
glimpse
uh,
of what you're up to in the world right now.
yes, it's probably important for people to know these emerging leaders that basically I think are in that demographic of 18 to 35.
Hmm.
That if you double that last number, that's where I am. But I'm still living fully alive, probably more than I have been in earlier years of my life. I'm very, very excited about what the next day holds.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. And what are you up to right now? What are you doing these days?
Well, I am continuing to do what God unleashed many, many years ago. I am speaking.
Hmm.
I am writing. I am conducting seminars, probably moving more toward developing in young leaders the ability to communicate. We have our SCORE workshops where we bring in people literally from all over the world, and they have a chance to learn some of the techniques that allow them to prepare with crystal clear focus and deliver with clarity and move people to action, change lives.
Awesome, awesome. And guys, I want to kind of set the scene here because I think this is one of our best opportunities today. In my opinion, Ken is one of the sort of premier communicators, certainly within Christendom. But not only that, he speaks in places outside what some might say a secular environment and in such a powerful way. Do go and check out his videos on YouTube and things of that nature. He also trains speakers. He's got a great podcast called The Art and Business of Public Speaking, which you can go and check out. It's a great resource. So I reckon, guys, that this is going to be one of our best interviews. I'm excited for you who are listening. There's some nuggets going to come your way. Get pen and paper ready and take some notes. Now, Ken, before we go into sort of the detail of the art and business of public speaking, let's get a bit of your background. Tell us, where did it all start for you? And how did you get into what you're doing right now?
Well, many people ask me that. I get asked that a lot. You know, when did you start speaking? When did you realize that this was kind of the direction your life would take? And my answer is always it was right after the doctor slapped me and told my mom it was a boy. Um, I have known almost from that moment that I was born, there has been something inside of me. I wrote in my book about one of my first memories is standing beside a radio, listening to the laughter of some program on the radio. And by the way, radios back then weren't, you did stand beside them. You could actually dance on top of them. They were big pieces of furniture. And I was listening to the laughter and responding to the laughter. I actually probably was stomping my feet and yelling, trying to imitate that. And so from the very beginning, it has moved in that direction. And as we move on, I'll tell you about some of the mentors in my life who reinforced that and moved it forward.
Awesome.
But as a young boy, I was making people laugh. In high school and junior high, I was making people laugh and telling stories, and that just was nurtured all along the way. So, literally, I have been fortunate in that as I look back on my life, and I encourage people, by the way, young leaders who don't necessarily have that same view, to mine their history. For those moments when their heart soared with delight because of what they were doing.
Wow.
That's a God thing. Mm-hmm. And my first moment was in a diaper standing beside that radio. And through my history, there are stakes that were driven in the ground that just reconfirmed that was the direction I was supposed to go.
Wow. 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 And has there been like maybe one of those experiences have been a turning point for you? But has there been a turning point that really stands out for you? Maybe you were heading in one direction and something happened, an event happened, a revelation, epiphany that caused you to go in a completely different direction?
Well, yes and no. I was, of course, right out of high school. I began working, communicating. I actually took young men who were in trouble with the law on canoe trips. Mm-hmm. And around the campfire, I would try to speak into their lives the kind of spiritual and personal truth that could set them on a different course in life.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went into youth work with a program called Youth for Christ. I believe that it even
Yeah,
exists in your
it
country.
does. Yeah.
Yes. And I worked with that organization for 5 years, but the request for my speaking began to increase.
Mm.
Now, this story is part of an answer to your question. We honestly are going to get to the answer to your question here. So I started out in the ministry, moving in that direction, and unlike the stories that we sometimes hear of a trajectory that is just straight to the moon, no diversions,
Mm.
I began to get requests to work in nightclubs around the country, and in fact became very successful doing stand-up comedy in Denver, Colorado,
Mm-hmm.
Opening for some major stars across the country. And I thought, that's it. This is what I want. I want to be famous. I want to be, this is what I want to be, a famous comedian.
Mm-hmm.
And an epiphany one night was when I came out from a nightclub doing my comedy show. There had been that night something that the owner of the nightclub had never seen before, a standing ovation.
Mm.
I think people liked me because I was clean,
Mm.
and rather than just one-line stories, I talked about real life. They could
Right.
identify with it.
Mm-hmm.
So I came out, and sitting on the steps was one of the little girls that waited on people that night, and her ride had left her there by herself, and she was weeping, and I sat down next to her, made arrangements for her to get a ride home, and on the way home, I realized that I wanted to use what God had given me to be able to speak into people's lives in such a way that it made a difference. I mean, certainly that one night of laughter was great, but for the people facing divorce, for the people who had lost a child, for the man or woman sitting there who had already decided that life wasn't worth living and were just contemplating how they would end it, I offered nothing. I offered nothing. And I had the ability to offer something.
Wow.
And so that was the change when I decided to stop chasing the golden ring and climb through the window of opportunity that God had right in front of me.
Wow. Wow, that's powerful. That's powerful. And what about challenges? I mean, I know that you've been doing this a long time, like you said, what's been I'm sure there've been lots, but what's been your biggest challenge along the journey so far?
Oh, I don't think you're going to like my answer. Are you ready?
Yeah.
My biggest challenge in the journey was success. My biggest challenge was when I began to lean on my success. And by that, I mean all aspects of it. I had watched people come to faith all over the world. Of course, that is the main focus of my ministry, to bring some people along the line somewhere from not caring about anything to knowing the unbelievable power of God's love. I say that without being ashamed. But I had been very successful in that. There were thousands of people, not hundreds of thousands, but literally thousands of people who had made that step. I had watched lives changed. I had watched lives literally saved from hopelessness. And I began to lean on that. I was a successful person. I was recognized in airports. And my financial officer had whispered words, Errol, into my ear that almost became my death warrant. He said, "You never have to work another day in your life." So rather than leaning on God and rather than looking toward every morning the excitement of maybe being able to empower or encourage people, I began to coast toward retirement.
Wow.
And I gained almost 60 pounds. I was overweight. I couldn't tie my shoes without breathing hard. I was spending weeks in depression. I kind of had lost sight of what my purpose was.
Wow.
as a result of first of all seeing a picture of me standing on the beach where I looked like a walking manatee. I was monstrous, and I was holding the hands of my little tiny granddaughter. Um, I tease people that I laid on the beach and took my shirt off, and those animal lover people came and poured water on me and tried to push me back into the water. They thought I was a whale. I can laugh at it now because God used that picture to wake me up. This is not a picture of my backside. This was a picture of my soul. I had grown lazy. I had my soul overweight. I had started to lean on my success in ministry and in corporate rather than trusting God.
What's the lesson for us then, as emerging leaders, young leaders coming through? Like what's our lesson from that story? What did you learn from that?
There is no fulfillment in that. I learned from that none of us are designed to retire. And I don't care if you're 25 or 35. If your aim is to work until you don't have to work anymore, you're going to end your life in misery. It's going to be miserable.
Wow.
But I decided in that moment not to retire, but to retread and get another 100,000 miles out of my life.
Come on.
I trained for a triathlon. I lost 40 pounds training for the triathlon. I took second in the first triathlon I ever entered.
Wow.
In my age group, you understand. Yeah, there were only 2 old guys in my age group, and so I took second. But you know what? It didn't matter about the medal. I didn't know about the medal when I ran across the finish line. I was weeping like a child because I had left nothing on that course. I had given it my all.
That's great.
And I believe that, we're not done until we break the tape and the good Lord takes our hands and goes, come on, let me show you what I had in mind for the first place.
It's good, man.
Are you seriously fired up about growing as a leader in business or church-based ministry? Are you feeling somewhat frustrated about not having realized your full potential in what you've been called to do? Could you do with someone to help you get some extra clarity or to be a sounding board for your plans and ideas? Great athletes have coaches, so do great leaders. The right leadership coach for you will result in an increased sense of clarity, direction, and purpose, dramatically increasing the results you achieve. If you're ready to step up, contact Errol to book a free, no-obligation introductory coaching session and see whether Errol is the right coach for you. Errol takes the lessons learned from his own leadership journey and from his extensive research to help leaders and entrepreneurs to step into their biggest challenges and rise to their next level. Email admin@errollawson.com right now to schedule your call.
It's good. So how do you define success now then at this stage? What does success look like for you?
For me, Errol, success is being everything God had created me to be. Success is sitting in a green room during the intermission, having somebody hand me a note. And the note says, I came tonight planning to end my life. You've shown me that God isn't done with me, and I have a lot to give. I have value, and I can touch the lives of other people. Thank you. It was not signed with a name. It was signed your 16-year-old friend. That's success to me.
Awesome.
The checks, I can honestly say that. The checks are nice. They're helpful. The standing ovations are great. They're helpful. But you subtract the emails and letters, especially since I wrote Fully Alive and that movie came out, from people who have decided that they're ready to live again. You subtract the changed lives, and I will be on a golf course somewhere. I'll be on a beach somewhere, but I won't be as fulfilled as I am knowing that I can still make a difference.
Awesome. And John Maxwell said that the secret to success is hidden in your daily routine or your daily agenda. Typically speaking, what does the first 90 minutes of your day look like?
You know what? There is no typical in my life.
Okay.
There is no typical. The first 90 minutes on one day will be me dead tired at 5 a.m. running to get to the next airplane. You understand what I'm saying? On other mornings, it will be that I was up until 2 o'clock getting into where I'm going, and I am resting. Generally, if there is a typical day, and I'm going to be honest with you, those books don't apply to me. I am not a morning person, so the first 90 minutes sounds like this. And a lot of your listeners won't understand this. Some of your older ones will. It sounds like this. It's getting started. It's getting coffee, getting a meal, getting the strength to go. And then my day generally starts. And depending, again, on what the day is and what the schedule is, and you have some other questions that I observed that will answer some of this. It'll depend on how the day goes. Now, on days when another typical day, general day for me, is when I can really be disciplined. This is how it starts. I put on my biking suit and I bike for an hour. Or I put on my tennis shoes and I run and walk for an hour. Or I go down into my basement where I have a gym and I lift for an hour. Wow. I guess if I could be honest and say that if I was the most disciplined person in the world, that's probably how I would start my day. Because after that, then I can sit down and meditate. I can read. I can pray and prepare for whatever the day has to offer. But up until this motor gets started, there isn't a lot that happens.
Wow. And so, have there been any other habits then that have helped, that sort of contribute towards your success?
Yeah. Contrary to my success, you say?
So contributed towards your success.
Oh, contributed, yes. Oh, I love the English accent. I love it. I think the habits that have contributed most to my success are the unrelenting desire to stay healthy. Mm-hmm. Those times that I get up, even when I fail, I don't stop. Do you understand? I don't think there's many people that follow I have one friend that does. His name is Mike Hyatt, mm-hmm. and he just follows this strict routine, and occasionally he gets interrupted too. But mm-hmm. my travel schedule is such, and my life is so different every day, that sometimes I don't get a chance to exercise. Sometimes my life is spent on an airplane. Mm. And then I tend to beat myself up. I think the greatest habit is to remind myself to reset, recalculate, start again, and not give up, and not beat myself up over that.
I hear that. You know, I want to speak a little bit about public speaking, because I know that is your arena right there. Why do you think so many leaders, can I say, fail at communication?
You may say that. Yes, they do. I think we're observing it even in our political arena today. I think they fail at communication because of a couple of things. Mm-hmm. Number one is that they don't start out with the end in mind. They never consider that there is a purpose to communication. Mm-hmm. Determine what the purpose is for whatever your particular communication set is. We call it the objective. Mm-hmm. And then design your talk to move people to that objective.
Right.
That will usually be either to persuade them in some way, to take action, to consider some thought or belief, mm-hmm. To make a difference in their lives, or it will be to encourage them, to enable them in some way, to show them how they can do something. Mm. And if you know what that outcome is, then you can design your speech to move in that direction. Right. There are so many people today, especially the young people that you talk to, that believe that creativity is destroyed by clarity. Mm. That's not true. Everyone is searching for clarity. That we have to somehow make it so weird that people don't understand it, and that if it is clear, and if it is simple, that it's not fun to listen to. That just isn't true. I believe I'll be 70 years old next month. Mm-hmm. And I have as many requests for my speaking as there has ever been. And I believe that that is because of a combination of humor, but most of all because when I walk off the stage, there has been something clear communicated that changes the lives of the people that are in the audience for the better.
That's great.
So that's number one, focus. The other thing is about our passion.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe firmly, Errol, that if our passion is to be successful, it's the wrong focus. If I have people that come to our conference go, I hate public speaking. I hate it. Why? Well, what if I fail up there? I sweat. What if I fail? The greatest thing ever taught to me by my mentors was this: it's not about you.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about you.
Right.
Success comes as a result of impacting people's lives. People like Zig Ziglar and Ogman Dingo, some of the people that have been great mentors in my life, have from the beginning said, it's not about you. There was a book written, The Purpose-Driven Life. The first sentence said, it's not about you. I was offended by that sentence. And then as I read, I realized it's true. The most successful people in the world are people who pour their lives into others.
Wow.
If I stand up in front expecting the audience to grant me a blessing by liking me, it will affect every aspect of my communication.
Wow.
Including my fear factor, everything. But if I stand in front knowing that I have in my heart and in my hands and coming from my lips information that can empower them, that can make their next day better, that can make their life better, can make their eternity better, and I deliver that with power,
Come on.
then success follows.
That's great, Ken. That's great. That's great. Where else do they fail? What else are they doing that's holding them back?
I think they fail because those are the two major reasons. They don't give enough consideration. I think the success of a speaker is not determined by the words that come out of his mouth on the stage. It's determined in their preparation for the words that will come out of their lips on the stage. Success happens before they ever set one foot on the platform. And that's in the preparation. And that goes back. I beat this drum over and over again. I'll come back to it over and over again. That means you know exactly where you're headed. You know exactly how you're going to take people there. And you eliminate anything from your speech that would detract from that.
It's great.
Last night we did a fundraiser for an organization that is very close to my heart. And we did consulting with them about the fundraiser. I've been to fundraisers that were 6 hours long, where people left before the evening was over. And the program would lead toward encouraging people to be a part of this organization, and then they would throw in some other kind of programming or whatever it might be. Last night, every element of that crescendoed, led to a crescendo. One of the people who had benefited from this organization sang a song. There wasn't a dry eye in the audience.
Wow.
And we helped them design the evening that way. So it was at that moment they allowed me to step to the stage and tell people how they could be a part of this. About people who were lost and dying, had no place to turn, and this is an organization that gives them a chance to turn. At that point, I told about how when my granddaughter was lost in the mountains, which is the key story in our feature film and my book, Fully Alive, I ran for 4.5 hours until I fell flat on my face and couldn't move. It was only when the hands and arms and voices of other people were enlisted that we could work our way through that impenetrable wilderness and finally together find that little lost soul and have her rescued. And I said, we can only do this together. This isn't a chance for you to help somebody else do something. This is a chance for you to be a part of a family and a team that's doing something. That makes all the difference in the world if it's focused and clear.
It's great. You know, one of the things that you're known for is your humor. Were you born funny or did you learn funny?
No, I was born funny. I tell people I don't. It's a gift.
Okay.
Yeah, it is. It is a gift, and I think that what I've learned over the years
And
is
can
to
it
use
be
the.
learned?
Yes, I think it can be learned, but you have to understand what your style is. We
Right.
talk about this in our speaking courses, the score conference. You have to know what your style is. There are some people that have a style of very witty kind of one-line humor. Mine is more story humor. The parent that yells at their kid, "Hey, you cut your legs off in that lawnmower. Don't come running to me." Well, they can't. I see humor in the little thing. And some children are just, I see humor in the wit of children. I have a grandson that stood looking at the nativity scene last year. And he said to me, he's just the sharpest little kid. He said, "If I ask you a question that most people wouldn't ask, and it's very unusual, would you be upset with me?" And I said, "No." He said, "Well, it's about the nativity scene." I said, "No, I won't be upset." Well, he said, "It's particularly about the baby Jesus." And that's the way he talks, by the way. And I said, "No, what is your question?" He said, "Well, when he got a little older, if he left the door open and his mom said, 'Hey, son, were you born in a barn?' Think about that for a second." He said, "If he said yes, would that be sassing?" To me, I just, and when I tell that story, people recognize the wit of this child, not trying to be funny, but asking an intensely intelligent question.
Yes.
From the perspective of a child. I see it all the time. But I do. The hardest thing to do is sit here. I'm sitting here now going, what can I say that's funny? I know there's stuff that I have. What can I say that's funny? That's the hardest thing in the world. A doctor once asked me what I did for a living. I said, "Well, I'm kind of a comedian." "Oh," he said, "I'm a physician." He said, "Tell me a joke. Tell me a joke." And I said, "Take out my spleen. Take out my spleen." Because it can't be done on the spot.
It's good. It's good. So what's your biggest weakness as a leader?
Oh, wow. I appreciate the question because I'm tired of reading books, listening to people speak who are inauthentic. One of the greatest things that has made a speaker, I'm going to go back to your previous question, that will make a speaker fail is to stand up in front and not be authentic. To act as though there has been nothing but success in their life. I'll tell you what my greatest weakness is. I have an unbelievable tendency to be undisciplined. Part of this probably comes from laziness. A great part of it comes from the fact that I am off the chart ADHD, attention deficit disorder. Everything I start to do reminds me of everything else that I need to do. A cell phone for me is an absolute disaster. When you open up a cell phone, the screen is filled with pictures of other things you could possibly do. I hope you identify with this because that is my greatest weakness. And I have to work extremely hard to discipline myself to stay focused. When I begin a task, I have to have an open, not a phone, an open notebook beside me. And when a thought comes to my mind about something else I need to do, a call I need to make, whatever it might be, and sometimes it's just something pleasurable that I want to do, I write that down and then stay focused on the task until the task is done. I believe that is my biggest weakness, and that I will continue until the day I die to work. I will have to work to overcome that. It won't come naturally. There won't ever be a time when I'll be able to say to you, the first 90 minutes of my day are spent in prayer and meditation, and then after that I move on to, the first 90 minutes of my day are spent trying to, as hard as I can, to focus on what needs to be done next.
So what's your biggest strength?
My greatest strength? My greatest strength, I believe, Errol, is a desire for excellence, the ability to recognize it, and to demand it from myself and from the people around me, and to encourage people to never stop seeking it in their own lives.
It's great. And if you think back to the beginning of your journey in leadership, as a speaker, or however you consider yourself to be a leader, what was holding you back, if anything at all, at the beginning of your journey?
That is a fascinating question. I would say in the beginning it was the fear that I might not be able to make a living doing this. When I was working for Youth for Christ, I was getting so many offers to speak at other places, and I went to them and asked if I could take advantage of these offers. And of course the answer was no, because at least from their perspective at that time, it was important for me to complete the tasks that they had for me to do. And if I took these offers, I could not do it. I actually ended up in the hospital, and I wrote I agonized over this so greatly. I ended up in the hospital. I made some very bad decisions in the midst of agonizing for this. And in the hospital, I wrote a letter of resignation. And when I signed, I don't remember signing it. Because when I signed it, I fell asleep and slept for almost a day and a half. Wow. The agony was over. Wow. Even though I was now in a new area with all kinds of risk, it was over. And I applauded myself that the agony was really about moving from a kind of a ministry-oriented thing where there was actual a organization around it to making a living speaking in many different types of situations. But the real agony was this. I was making, are you ready for this? $8,000 a year. And I was afraid of losing that.
Wow.
I made that in the first month.
Great.
Yeah. but isn't that interesting? Because in order to take this step, I was making $8,000 a year. When I changed jobs and went out on my own, guess what I was making the first day? Zero. Zero. So I was going from 8,000 to zero. And so I was looking at the worst case scenario rather than the possibilities.
Right.
And it just fascinates me that...
Cut the rope, man.
Yeah. The greatest agony came in making the decision. Once the decision was made, I was at peace. I slept like a baby.
That's great. You know, along your journey, I know you've probably had lots of mentors, but who have been your top 3 most significant mentors on your journey so far?
Two of them are gone. Francis Peterson, high school English teacher. I cursed. I was very profane in her class, trying to make somebody laugh. This wasn't my habit, but there I was. The opportunity came up. The words came out of my mouth, and she made me stay after school. I knew she was going to expel me. I went to a country school. When you stayed after school, you missed your bus. They called your parents, and they had to come and get you. And back then, they didn't bring lawyers. They brought weapons of mass destruction. And I sat in front of her, waiting. No, I'm serious. 2x4s with barbed wire wrapped around them. But anyway, I sat waiting for her to expel me, and just before my parents arrived, this beautiful woman, I get emotional talking about it today, capped her pen. She'd been correcting papers. She folded her hands and forced me to look her directly in the eye, and she said, "Kenneth Alpheus Davis," which is my full name, never spoken, by the way, unless disaster follows. She said, "Kenneth Alpheus Davis, God has given you an unbelievable gift." She said, "You're using it to destroy your class, this class. I'm going to change that. You're going out for speech." It turned my life around. Years before, a coach had told me in the same school, "You'll never amount to anything," because I couldn't catch a football. And so I spent so many years trying to impress people with this humor. I went out for speech and never looked back. Years later, I got a chance to give her some roses. She came to a show that I did and thank her. Another one is a man by the name of Robert Thompson. He was a professor in the college that I went to, a little college actually to prepare people for the ministry. I studied for the ministry. There are churches all over the world right now that thank God that didn't work. But anyway, the professor brought me into the office one day and he said, "What do you want to be?" And you may remember this as my answer to how do you define success. I said, "I want to be everything God created me to be." And he said, "I don't believe you." And I said, "What?" And he shoved a test paper across the table. He said, "You're capable of acing any test I give. And you almost failed this one." He said, "What you want to be isn't what you say you want to be. What you want to be is the decision you make in the next moment." And then he leaned forward further and he said, "You will never get this kind of grade on any test I ever give you again." It was a life changer. Wow. And he said that not to be mean. He said that because he believed in me. Wow. And we became fast friends. But he did not let me make excuses. He did not let me be lazy. He encouraged me to operate at full capacity, to be everything I was created to be. Robert Thompson. Okay. And then I think I would say that he probably doesn't even know this, but Michael Hyatt has been a profound influence on me. He is more a friend than a mentor, maybe both at the same time. But just watching him, seeing the discipline in his life, and working not to be him, but to follow some of those same patterns as I establish what I want to be, as I try to. It's interesting. This whole leadership thing is fascinating to me. I'm not sure a person sets out to be a leader. I think that as you live a life worthy of a leader, people begin to follow you. And that's what makes a leader.
That's great. Thank you so much, Ken. Thank you. Hey, we're almost done, right? But I'm wondering, firstly, what's the one thing you're most fired up about right now?
I think right now I'm fired up about, in this period of my life, moving away from riding airplanes all the time and, speaking to literally thousands, sometimes tens of thousands of people, and pouring into the lives of new leaders, helping them develop as great communicators, helping them develop careers. I get so many letters from people going, how can I develop a career like you've had? And we've developed some conferences, the SCORE conference and the Launch conference, and some online help that will help folks. And what also fires me up is being free from traveling all the time will allow me to pour my life into the most important people in my life, which are 6 little grandchildren who look up to me right now. I want to be leaders in I don't want at my memorial service for them to say, "Well, we didn't know him very well. He was gone all the time." I want to pour into their lives.
Awesome. And is there a book or resource that you'd recommend for a leader or entrepreneur?
Oh, yes. Well, Fully Alive, my book, Fully Alive, has impacted more lives than anything else I have ever written. And I believe that this is because this isn't a business book. This isn't the 6 secrets to success. This is a book about personal excellence. This is a book about rediscovering that sense of joy for living that came when you were a child and you jumped out of bed and your feet hit the floor and you could hardly wait for what the day had to offer. Personal excellence, taking care of your own, and I mean that from a standpoint of health and keeping educated and your own personal welfare. Personal excellence leads to corporate excellence. Every single time a person cannot exceed what they are personally to become something else professionally.
That's great.
So Fully Alive And of course, I highly recommend, if any of your listeners can take advantage of our conferences, all of that can be found on our website, ken@kendavis.com.
Brilliant. And it's the conferences. Do you want to just say a bit about those conferences and any of the opportunities that are available right now?
Yes, right. Let me just, there we go. Let me tell you that those conferences, one is called the SCORE Conference, and the SCORE Conference is coming up, actually, the next one is coming up in October. If you go to our website, the exact date, 17th through the 20th are there. And then we have another SCORE Conference coming up in April. That's teaching people how to prepare with crystal clear focus and deliver with power messages that absolutely change lives. The other one is the Launch Conference, which is helping people understand how they can launch the career they love. It's the answer to the hundreds of letters that I've gotten. How can I begin a career? This is my dream. I want to become a speaker. I want to lead conference. And we have a very valuable conference that has literally enabled people to go from to wake up one morning and sleep for the first time because they've taken the step toward building the career that they've always dreamed of.
That's great.
It's the Launch Conference.
Brilliant. Guys, go check those out. Check out the kendavis.com website for more information about all these events that Ken is a part of, and also the books that Ken has written are all there as well. Ken, thank you so much for your time today. I know there's a lot more we can get at, we could discuss. But guys, please do go check out, if you Google Ken, if you look for Ken on iTunes, you'll find many other resources that will help you to become a better speaker, better leader in your field. All right. Thank you so much, Ken. God bless you.
Thank you. I just try to be honest and helpful. I hope I've been both.
Thank you. Thank you again for joining us today on the Rising Generation Leadership Podcast. I pray you've been inspired, you've been lifted, you've been encouraged to take your personal leadership to the next level. We really encourage you guys to just take action, make it happen, do something, start somewhere, go out and change the world in some way, big or small. Guys, if you've enjoyed the podcast today, please share with your friends, share with your loved ones, your colleagues, someone out there you think might benefit from hearing this great content. And if you want some more questions answering, you got a question, email me, Errol@errollawson.com. Or if you want a free 30 to 45 minute coaching session with myself around a leadership challenge or issue you're working on in your business, your church, or in your organization, please feel free to email me right away. We'll get you booked in. It's Errol@errollawson.com. Thank you again for listening. Go to our iTunes page, check it out, check out the previous episodes. Give us a nice review, that would be awesome. Really appreciate if you could do that for us. We really appreciate you just for being here and listening. Thank you so much. God bless you, and we'll see you on the next episode of The Rising Generation.